Hi, everybody. So I'm sorry I couldn't see you face to face. There's something wrong with my camera, apparently. But my name's Korynn Elliott, and I'm going to be talking about empaths and love and how highly sensitive people can create healthy relationships by human design. So this is really about finding love in the wake of difficult, draining, or toxic relationship dynamics. And I just wanted to say that I know that today is Valentine's Day in the US. And so oftentimes, for about a month or even right after New Year's, we start to hear a lot about, the next holiday, which is Valentine's Day. And we're kind of sold this idea of love as being about, teddy bears and chocolates and nice dinners out and things like that, which is a beautiful thing to be able to celebrate the love that you have. However, if you do find yourself in a relationship like this that's difficult, draining, or toxic, you might feel a sense of dread when this kind of holiday comes around and maybe like your love isn't worthy of celebration. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But first I wanted to tell you or talk about what an empath is. And maybe you already know whether or not if you identify as an empath or a highly sensitive person. We're going to talk about what a narcissist is and why they're so attracted to each other, and how you can begin to heal from toxic relationships with potentially narcissists and start to receive the love that you really deserve, the love that you know is really worth celebrating, because it always is. So who am I? I'm Korynn Elliott again. I'm a human design specialist. I'm also a practitioner of yoga nidra, breathwork, and somatics primarily, amongst many other things, but these are the main things that I work with in my practice. I am a 2/4 projector, and my incarnation cross is the right angle cross of the vessel of love. So if that tells you a little bit about why I'm talking about love today, that might help. And I also identify as an empath and a highly sensitive person. And we're going to take a look at the chart a little bit and where these kind of traits show up in the chart. So that's going to be really fun. So what is an empath or a highly sensitive person? I guess the term can kind of be used interchangeably sometimes. It depends on who gives the definition of it, or either. But primarily, these are the things that they have in common. They feel all the things. So they're feeling other people's energies. They're feeling just all the energy in the world around them and in their environment. This is kind of, what typifies an empathic or highly sensitive person primarily, I think. So these people are always absorbing and amplifying the energy around them. And so if you know about human design, you'll know that when you are taking in energy through your open centers, you're amplifying that energy. So it starts to feel a little overwhelming or very overwhelming. So empaths are generally very compassionate and caring, and they can also be pretty nurturing. Not always, but these are definitely common traits for these two types of people. And because of that energy that they're feeling and bringing in and absorbing and amplifying all the time, they can really become easily overstimulated and overwhelmed. There we go. So in human design, we're going to look at what that looks like in human design. Openness in the chart is primarily where you're taking in, all of the energy and amplifying it. So you're absorbing and amplifying energy through the open centers. So if you have a very open chart, you're probably feeling all the things all the time. The types really any type can be an empath. I put projectors and reflectors at the top because they tend to have more openness in the chart, but not always. Some generator types have a lot of openness, maybe even only 2 centers defined. Also manifestors and manifesting generators. So this isn't a by type kind of thing. All types can be empathic or highly sensitive. And it can also show up in the gates, the circuitry, the lines, and the centers. And I'm going to be primarily looking at where there's kind of like a concentration of this kind of energy in the G center, which is also known as the identity center, the will center, which can also be called the ego, and the emotional solar plexus. So this is an open chart. So it's kind of a joke where, you know, I'm open to all things. That can be a really good thing, but that can also mean that you're feeling all of the things times 100. And so that can start to be really overwhelming and often even debilitating. And this makes me high functioning. So when you have all these open centers and you're amplifying all of this energy, you're taking on this energy from your environment and from other people and making it bigger. So this can really ramp up your energy and create high functioning, you know, traits within yourself. It's not a sustainable energy, so you'll use this energy and function at a high level generally, and then generally you'll crash or burn out. And that could mean you're crashing at the end of the day, or even just after a few hours, or it could mean that you're burning out, you know, early in your lifetime. A lot of people burn out around like the age 30 or 32 or early 30s. And so when you're this open, you also get easily overwhelmed. You also need time alone to really empty out, to clear that energy, to restore your energy and relax and let that energy that you're taking on, let it go and move through you and on out. With that said, even though you need alone time, you do need people to be around you. When you have this much openness, you need people, but you need to be around healthy people. You need to be in a healthy environment so that you can share that energy, that healthy energy with other people and create that healthy energy within yourself. So empaths by type, I know I said that, you know, everyone is able to be an empath, or we don't discriminate based on type. How this can show up for projectors is projectors are really here to see and to guide other people. So their aura is very penetrating and looking and seeing right into another person. So they're feeling the other. So with this, they often have a hard time seeing themselves and kind of getting out of their own body and not really being able to notice when they're being drained or when they're feeling overwhelmed until it's too late. So with projectors, it's common to not know when enough is enough. So they're looking outside of themselves very naturally a lot, and they're here to guide the energy of others. And so they just have a hard time noticing when they're being drained. Reflectors have all of their centers open, and so they are taking in all of that energy all the time through their open centers and feeling that energy all the time. So they're really a temperature gauge for the world and for their communities. They feel everything, and they will display, you know, the health of the environment around them. Generators and manifesting generators, it kind of depends, or empathic traits kind of depend on what is defined or undefined in their chart. And they can be very open, or they can have certain gates defined, things like that. And then manifestors as well. They can be very open, or they can have certain gates defined that typify them as an empath or a highly sensitive person, and we'll talk about that. So the centers that I want to talk about are the G center, the will center, and the emotional solar plexus. The first one is the G center. That's that yellow diamond right there in the center of your chart. I love this center. This is where my incarnation cross lives. And so this is the center for love and direction. And so with the G center, you can question your lovability. So as an empath and with an open G center, you might question yourself or question, am I lovable? Or if you have this center defined, you might ask yourself, am I loved for who I am? So am I feeling loved? Am I feeling lovable? Or am I feeling loved for who I really am? So you can question yourself in that way. And with the G center, there's always a sensitivity to the environment if you have that center open. So with this, you have to be in the right geographic environment. It's important to be around the energy that feels more high vibe, so to speak. In the G center, we have the gate 15, which is the gate of compassion, and compassion is another trait of an empathic or highly sensitive person. They tend to be very compassionate people. Also, the gate 13, which is the gate of the listener. And when you are an empathic or highly sensitive person, you might have this gate defined, possibly, and you are always hearing everyone's stories. You meet someone new and they tell you their whole life story and you have no idea why. That could be true for you. And then in the highest expression of this gate 13, this is where forgiveness lives. So this can be a challenge for people with the gate 13 defined, but forgiveness is a very compassionate, empathic feeling, or I guess idea. So this is kind of where that can live in the G center. The next center I want to talk about is the will center. And if you have this center open or undefined, you might question your value or wonder if you're worthy. And so you might also want to prove your self-worth or overcompensate for your worthiness. And some of these things can also show up in the traits of a narcissist, and I'm going to tell you about how some of these centers relate to the narcissist as well. But when you feel, when you have this open and you're questioning your self-worth and your value, that can kind of bring up some things for you. The solar plexus, or the emotional solar plexus, when it's open, you are an emotional empath. You're feeling all of the emotions of others. This can become very overwhelming, and it can feel kind of like you're constantly dealing with other people's emotions, and it can get pretty intense when you're around someone who is, very emotional, and you're not sure, like, is this mine or is this someone else's? Things like that. But you're able to feel other people's emotions and often resonate with them more often when you have this center open. So empathic traits in other places of the chart are in the sensing circuit. So this is when you kind of look at like the left brain or the right brain, think of the sensing circuit like the right brain of circuitry in human design. So it's like the feminine aspect of the human design chart, so to speak. The gate 18 is where perfectionism lives, or fear of imperfection. And so a lot of times when we've experienced a lot of overwhelm or even like trauma early in life, we might adopt traits like perfectionism so that we can kind of protect ourselves from all of these emotions and feelings and things like that that come up when you're taking on all of this energy, when you're an empath taking on all of this energy. It might also show up in if you have a profile, a fifth line profile, because you're in the projection field. The line 2, because the martyr kind of likes to go within and be within their own energy, in their cave, doing things on their own terms, to kind of protect themselves from all the stuff that's outside the cave. And it could also be in the line 3, which some identify the line 3 as the martyr. I really resonate more with the experiential learner archetype than martyr, but I could see how, martyr could be also identified here in this aspect. It could also show up for you if you have the gate 19 defined, and I call this the gate of sensitivity, and this kind of means that you might be very sensitive with touch or even emotions. This isn't connected to the emotional solar plexus. I believe it's connected to the root. But if you have the center defined, then you're definitely a highly sensitive person. And so this doesn't always mean that you have to have these defined. You may have received conditioning in these areas if you have them open, and you might see these traits in yourself as well. So what is a narcissist? This is kind of, a lot of people are talking about what narcissists are, or labeling literally everyone as a narcissist these days who, doesn't seem to interact well with society and is kind of a bully. So there are definitely, in psychology, there are narcissistic personality disorders, and then there are several different subtypes of narcissism, and there are just narcissistic traits where a psychologist might not necessarily identify, or they might not identify someone as someone who has a narcissistic personality disorder. But a narcissistic person could have these traits. So they are often very arrogant and vain. So looks are very important to them. They put out a energy or a vibe or kind of a front or a facade that they are the best of the best and everyone else is kind of less than they are. They never take, so they're very blaming. They never take responsibility for any of their actions. They might turn things back around on you. They might tell you that what you've claimed that they're doing wrong to hurt you is actually you doing it. That's actually called gaslighting. But so they're not taking responsibility for their own lives, and they're kind of putting the blame for the bad things that happen in their lives onto the people around them. So they can be very manipulative. That example that I just gave you is as an example of manipulation. They thrive on manipulation, actually. And they probably about 99% of the time have no empathy. Now, there is a subtype of narcissism that's called the empathic narcissist. And this is a very small percentage. Very, very, very small. So if you're questioning yourself whether or not you might be this, that means that you're not, because people that ask themselves, am I a narcissist, are usually not. But there is a subtype of narcissism that's called the empathic narcissist. This is the type of person who actually does care. They have, they're not completely psychopathic. They do care about people, but but that does not trump all their problems and all of the things that they do, their manipulation, their blaming, and all of that trumps any and all empathy that they may have. They still manipulate, they still blame, they still, even though they deep down may feel like they're less than others, they still have this facade that says that I'm better than everyone. I'm better than you. So a narcissist can be open or defined in different areas, and I'm going to talk about those in a second. A lot of them have most likely experienced trauma in their early childhood. This can often be used as an excuse for their behavior. However, it is a fact that most narcissists have experienced trauma in their early childhood. And so this is often a reason why empaths are attracted to narcissists. So they see that they've experienced pain and trauma, and so they're attracted to that. They want to help them heal that. And we'll talk about that a little bit too. And they likely have deep conditioning. So if they have openness in their chart, they might have been raised by narcissistic parents, for example, or they might have just received just some form of trauma that conditioned them in a deep way. And so they feel like they have to overcompensate in ways to make themselves feel okay. That's their way of coping with the trauma or the abuse. So they have mistaken motivations, and Korynn talks about mistaken motivations a lot in human design, but their mistaken motivations for love or really anything actually are inadequacy. They have a deep sense of inadequacy that is often not even known by themselves because they can't see this in themselves. They would think this is ridiculous to hear this. If you were to tell them that they have a feeling of inadequacy, that would just be ridiculous to them. They have a mistaken motivation of power. They want to overpower. They don't want to feel like anyone has power over them, so they first take the initiative and take power over others. And they have mistaken motivations oftentimes of revenge, getting back at people or getting back at who gave them that traumatic experience early in their life by lashing out at the people in their lives now. So this is a subconscious thing that they're doing. This revenge thing. It doesn't always have to be subconscious. They might seek revenge in people who are in their lives who are only doing good to them because they're blaming them for everything. So they can be any type. Like, once again, we don't discriminate by type here. And these traits can live in the gate circuitry lines and centers. And I think that I only wrote the will center or ego center here because I think that there's a lot there, and I'll tell you why in a second. So in the G center, the narcissist may question their lovability. They feel like they're unloved, and so they kind of go on the attack to avoid feeling that they're unloved or that they're unlovable. And so this is kind of how it might show up. If they have an open G center, they might question their lovability, and so they take that to an extreme by lashing out at other people. The will center, if they have this open, they're questioning, am I valuable or am I worthy? This is all subconscious once again. The narcissist is usually never questioning themselves for anything. They're very confident in everything and anything that they do or say, usually, but deep down, they're actually not. So it's, once again, it's overcompensating. If this center is defined, they might think, I'm more valuable than you are, or you are unimportant, simply. They have this ego. They see that everything that they do and say is very valuable, and that they're the most important people in the room, always. Everyone else is kind of just, they don't matter. So if this, with the emotional solar plexus, they're not usually emotionally wise, and it's unsafe to feel. It's unsafe to feel emotions for them because they don't want to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is never okay. So they shut down. They shut down, and if you are experiencing an emotion, then it's never ever acknowledged. And if they are experiencing crazy emotions, whether that's coming from their openness and they're kind of amplifying some emotions, and then you're usually there to help them deal with it, and then you kind of get caught up in that emotional wave or ring, so to speak, and you start to have these emotions, then they immediately shut down. They immediately have no tolerance for what you're going through, even though they just experienced that same exact thing 1 second before. So in other places in the chart, and this isn't to say that if you have any of these defined that you are a narcissist. It doesn't mean that at all. This is just kind of this is the low expression of these places in the chart. So don't worry. If you're once again, if you're questioning yourself, if you're a narcissist, that means that you're not. So the gate 21 can be controlling. Once again, narcissists are very controlling, and especially with resources. There's a book that was written by Shannon Thomas, and I think it's called Exposing Financial Abuse, I think. And I would recommend checking that out if you can. But it's really about a narcissist, someone with personality disorders like narcissism or other personality disorders like this, how they control resources, keep them away from their partners, use manipulation tactics, hold finances over their head, things like that. So this could potentially live in the gate 21 and in the lowest expression. Also in the spleen, because we have all of the fear gates of the spleen is the center where a lot of fight or flight energy lives. It's very quick in the moment, instinctual kind of place. It's not feeling or emotional. It is, it's more fight or flight. So in the gate 18, which is connected to the spleen, we have the fear of imperfection. A narcissist, if they have a fear of imperfection because they've experienced trauma early in life and they've taken on that perfectionistic personality because that protects them from vulnerability, then that might show up, and that might contribute to their narcissistic traits. Also connected to the spleen is the gate 48, and this is where the fear of inadequacy lives. Just like I talked about with the will center, it's a deep feeling of inadequacy, but it is not recognized as that at all by the narcissist. With the gate 10, now this is the gate of self-love. However, in its lowest expression, this is where people can start to get victim-y and blame-y and, not taking responsibility for any bad things that happen in their lives, and not taking responsibility for their lives, basically. So these are just some other areas where narcissistic traits can show up in the human design chart. So why the attraction? Why the attraction between empaths and narcissists? Because you kind of see that happens a lot, right? There's a lot of there's a lot of dynamics there. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, or if you've ever noticed that you have that in your life, you've experienced that in your own life if you identify as an empath or a highly sensitive person. Do you tend to attract people who have narcissistic traits? So if you do, then this is why. It's because as an empath, you are here, you are a beacon of light. You are here to shine your light. and your compassion and your desire to heal other people, to heal yourself and to heal others. Yep.
Can I ask you to go back to your screen with your picture on, since our camera isn't working, and that way people can at least see you while you're talking?
Oh, did I have a
You're
screen share?
not. Oh, it's up there. I'm sorry.
Is my
We're doing good. We're doing good. I'm sorry. Start again from this one.
Okay, cool.
I love you were doing it, and I'm sorry.
Okay, I thought maybe you wanted me to show my face instead of the slide. Okay, we're good then. So as long as we're seeing the slide that says why the attraction, so it's because
Yes.
Okay, cool. It's because you're here to shine your light. As an empath, you're here to shine your light. Your compassion and your desire to heal others, and your empathy, your ability to sit with someone and feel their pain. This is what the narcissist wants. The narcissist wants someone who can understand their pain, even if they don't acknowledge it themselves. They want someone who will take responsibility for their pain because they don't want to take the responsibility for themselves. And they want to be with someone who is a beacon of light. They want compassion. They want love. They just don't know how to receive it gracefully because they take it and they drain it. And this is called narcissistic fuel or narcissistic supply, either one. And so you can become this fuel or supply for them if you aren't aware of what's going on, or if you have doubts about your own doubts about your sense of self-worth or your value, or if you've grown up with perhaps a narcissistic parent or sibling, or this is just kind of something that you're used to, or you've learned how to deal with these types of people, or cope in your life with these types of people around, and so you don't have the boundaries that you need to have when these types of people want to come around and take those gifts from you. Also, because narcissists tend to have, oops, you probably hear my dog barking. Also because narcissists they tend to have a sense of superiority and confidence and often charisma, or confidence or charisma. If you don't have those traits within yourself, you might seek someone like a magnet. You might seek those traits in someone else so that you can kind of fulfill that within yourself. Well, so this is how we start to like magnetize toward each other, because we seek the traits that we want in another person. And so, it's kind of, the narcissist doesn't necessarily want to have empathy or to be sensitive, but they want this light. They want these good feelings that you exude. And so it could create like a magnet, because you have what they want. And a lot of times they have what you want, especially when they do this thing called love bombing. So in the beginning, they'll tell you how amazing you are, how perfect you are, shower you with gifts and like all of the compliments. And then, once the honeymoon phase is over, then your feelings or your any problems that you might experience or challenges that you might come across in your life, they don't have the patience to deal with it. They don't want to. And so that's when you don't have that supply or fuel for them. So then the attraction for them starts to wane. And so there's a lot more depth that we could go into with that, but we'll just leave it right there. So in order to heal from this, I know this can be really heavy stuff if you're experiencing this. I know that when I was experiencing this and I was told about it and I started to learn about it, it was pretty triggering for me. And so I really appreciated learning about how you can heal from this. So how I could heal from this so that I could start to really receive the kind of love that I'm here for. Everyone is here for real love, not to be a source of supply for someone else. So it's important to really be aware of these dynamics. That's the first thing in your your healing journey, so that you can really start to recognize what this looks like, what this dynamic looks like. And if this, if you see these traits in someone else, if you're dating or, something like that, then you'll see these traits up front, and then you can choose to, to move on. Moving on from that, so going to, you don't need that in your life, especially if you're dating someone, and you have a way that you can cut ties and find a way to come back to yourself, then that'd be a really good and a good choice for you. It's important to know yourself. So I'm a projector, and so like I said about projectors, we're really great at seeing the other, seeing into others. And it really took a lot of practice for me, and also studying more in depth with human design really, really helped me to know myself, to go within. Additionally, meditation and breath work and other healing modalities, where you go inward and feel in your body. These are really, really great for getting to know yourself and seeing yourself, because that's really when you start to attract and receive the love that you're really here for, that you really are, that you really deserve, when you're seeing yourself. So also establishing authentic boundaries. When you know yourself, you can establish more authentic boundaries. When you know that you cannot deal with someone who has a lot of drama and has no patience for yours, or doesn't want to take responsibility for their own life, and it's hurting you because they're constantly blaming you for things. If you know that you can't deal with that, then you know for the next time that I can't do this. I'm setting a boundary. So it's really good to learn how to establish authentic boundaries based on knowing who you are and knowing yourself and what are you available for or unavailable for. And I think Korynn talks about this as well. I think I heard this from her, but she says to be a screen, not a sponge. So instead of absorbing like a sponge all of the negative energy or vibrations or emotions or all of the things, just let that move through you. And I know it's easier said than done, but if you can become more conscious and aware of it, then you might have an easier time with it as with practice. So to just let that move through you, and consciously try and use practices to, whether that's meditation or walking in nature, and being around people that make you feel good. Your environment is very important, so to help you empty out, so to speak. So also build your support team, get help, be around people who see you as you are, people who really value you. My friend said to me once the term casting pearls at swine, and that basically just means don't be giving all your goods to people who don't appreciate them, and give them to the people who do appreciate them. Share with the people who do see you, who do support you, who you feel that love coming from. Get help from, a therapist, a coach, something like that. That's also a part of your support team. And then connect with the high expressions of love and fill your love tank. This is feeling love for yourself. And I'm going to talk about that. So connecting with love, the love gates that I'm going to talk about are in the magnetic monopole, the G center here. And this will really help you to heal from any toxic relationships that you might have, whether it's parental or whether it's romantic or any familial or friendship, any kind of toxic relationship. These embodying these will really help. Self-love, this is in the gate 10. This is about being yourself, knowing yourself, loving yourself, and taking responsibility for your life in a loving way. The gate 15 is the gate of compassion, loving humanity, loving the world, and sharing from the heart without denying your own heart. That's the most important part, because you can be a very compassionate person and loving person in the world, but you need to make sure that you're not denying your own heart. Embodiment, or love of the body. This is in the gate 46. This is embodying who you really are authentically, loving the sensual nature of your physical form, your body, having integrity, and also vitality, feeling healthy and vital, nourishing your body. And finally, we have in the gate 25, the gate of love and connection with the divine. Connecting with a higher power, being the love of spirit, and trusting that you're supported, trusting that you're able to receive the support that actually wants to be sent to you and received through the gate 2, and fulfilling your calling or purpose. Your soul is here to fulfill a purpose. So connecting with love and the divine will really help you to do that. But finding a sense of purpose does help you tremendously in the healing process when you're involved in a toxic relationship dynamic. And then, like I said, filling your love tank. And these are some traits that are really helpful for embodiment, for filling your love tank. Embodying self-love, healing, integrity, and wholeness, feeling whole within yourself. Trusting yourself, trusting that you can receive the support you're meant to receive. Trusting yourself, that's very important. Feeling your self-worth, your sense of self-worth and your value, because you are valuable. We all are inherently, but really seeing that and feeling that is so important too. Having healthy boundaries, emotional wisdom, authenticity, empowerment of yourself, having courage to leave if that's what you choose to do, if that's what you're wanting, and courage to live your life in the way that you're here to live it. Decisiveness, when you have a hard time making decisions, if you waffle back and forth, that can kind of lower your sense of your self-esteem a little bit. So being strong in your convictions and making strong decisions is a really good way to begin to trust yourself as well. And then having physical, mental, and spiritual nourishment, embodying those things. Nourishing yourself physically through good foods. And we talked, I talked with some people last night, and they were talking about how thinking of a baby, the basic needs that a baby has, they need physical nourishment, mental and spiritual nourishment, but it's like in these very basic ways that yeah, they just don't have to be as complicated as adults kind of like to make it. So however that looks to you, eating well, filling up your brain and your consciousness with all the things that make you feel good in your body as well, and spiritual, whether that's prayer or connection with a higher power or meditation, however that looks to you in a way that feels nourishing. So these are some ways to fill your love tank, and that does help you heal. And so embodying those qualities and living true to who you are addresses your personal needs. So you're starting to really fulfill your own needs instead of looking to the opposite, to whoever is going to magnetize to you. So you're fulfilling your own needs, and fills the love tank. And this is what creates healthier relationships. This is how you can move on from the toxicity and create genuinely healthy relationships. So you can learn more at my website. You can find me at thezenfemme.com, or you can find me on Instagram at thezenfemme on Instagram. So did we have any questions, Cindy?
Yes, we had one that came up on Facebook, and it was, should relationships with these types, this is when you were talking about the narcissists, be avoided completely?
I would say yes. Yes. Because you can often get roped in, especially if you identify as an empath or a highly sensitive person. They're very good at manipulation and roping people in. And I'm not the type of practitioner that likes to blame anyone or say that, these people are terrible or anything like that. But they do have capabilities to be manipulative, and I would hate for you to, be on the receiving end of that. So if you can, if you're an empath or a highly sensitive person, I would recommend avoiding it. They have their own healing to do, and unless you're a trained professional, I don't recommend trying to help them do that. So yeah.
Now we did have a comment. Oh, well, we have a question from Ayla on Zoom. Can the open spleen be a possible indicator of sensitivity since you're attuned to other people's well-being?
Yeah, I think so. There's also the gate 57 that is on the spleen, comes off of the spleen, and I considered putting that on here as well, and I didn't. But I think that because that's a kind of psychic gate, so you're definitely feeling and knowing things about people. So that there's definitely sensitivity there. Yeah, I would say so too.
Thank you. Again, there's some comments that had come in. Don Michelle said on Facebook, I'm so grateful to be listening to this today. And Lynn on Zoom had, I think again, when we were just introducing the narcissist, I call it whatever they want is automatically more important than whatever anyone else wants. Do you find that true?
Yes, absolutely. That was definitely put in very eloquent words.
Okay, on Facebook, Melody said, I have most of these narcissistic tendencies. It breaks my heart to hear this much pain caused by me. How would you respond to Melody?
I'm sorry, what was the beginning of what she said? She said she has narcissism.
Well, yes, she says, I have most of these narcissistic tendencies. It breaks my heart to hear this much pain caused by me.
Yeah. So I think because I said a few times before, you could have narcissistic traits like that. I think a lot of us do. Most of us do have some traits because we all kind of have our own needs, and even as babies, we kind of come into this world unafraid to express what we need and think the world kind of revolves around us and things like that. But if you're questioning if you are a narcissist and it pains you to think that you might be causing others pain, then you're definitely not a narcissist, because someone who is a narcissist doesn't think they're doing anything wrong ever. So they're not worried about you. They're not worried about causing other people pain. They're worried about themselves and their ego only. So I can understand why you'd feel that way about, causing pain to other people. And so you might seek help to address that in your own way, and to have conversations with, those people and see how you can address that in a way that feels good to you and to them. But please don't be hard on yourself, because if you're questioning this and you're feeling like it pains you, then you're definitely not a narcissist.
We have a long one that came in. Okay. Clorinda on Zoom says, I believe my stepdaughter may be an empathic narcissist. She has definitely experienced severe trauma in her early childhood, and we have worked on it for years, but she has not been able to let go. It's hard because I sympathized with the trauma, but it has been so draining and I have had to step back. Any suggestions on how to deal with this?
Yeah. If there is any way that you can seek therapy with a therapist who is aware of, not aware, but experienced with this type of narcissistic behavior, I would really recommend that for yourself and for your stepdaughter, I believe you said it was. Because I think it's important for you to heal, because you're in a relationship dynamic with her, and it's also important for her to heal and to have someone help her who understands this type of personality disorder. Otherwise, you're just kind of going to talk therapy, and if the therapist doesn't understand this, then it would probably not be addressed in a way that would really help you both move forward.
Well, thank you. I had another comment come in on Facebook. It says, the person I'm thinking of acknowledges the desire to not hurt my feelings, yet when stressors come, they do it anyway. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you would often find in that people with the tendencies, if it's because when you come under stress, you're trying to think how to word this. Huh? When a person comes under stress, they'll often go back to learn tendencies that they might have had before, or,
Yeah.
Do you find that true?
Yeah, and that can be also something that an empathic narcissist does. They may feel guilty for making you feel bad. But yeah, like she said, just falling back into old patterns or trauma behaviors from before. I guess the question is the person willing to do what it takes to heal that trauma and to change their behavior? Or are they just always going to be going back to that behavior when they're feeling triggered? Because triggers are always going to happen. And so that's really the difference in seeing how you can move forward there.
Lynn made a recommendation in chat on Zoom. I don't know if she said medcircle.com has a bunch of really great videos that are free about narcissism and other great topics. Look for Dr. Ramani. I like her explanations.
Cool.
And we're coming up at the top of the hour. And it's an I want to say it's been an interesting topic to bring up on on Valentine's Day, kind of.
Yeah, I know.
But you could call, I mean, I think you started out with the empath, and I want to ask, the brunt of it is that, you know, as an empath, even on days you're allowed self-love and self-care too. So self-care day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or Galentine's Day. I don't know. I don't know if you've heard of that, but there's just the past few years, you know, women have been talking about having Galentine's Day, which is, you know, sharing the love that you have with your girlfriends on Valentine's Day. So your support system, maybe.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I had not. I feel out of the loop. Oh, but that was. I want to thank you, and I think everyone.
Yeah. Thank
It
you.
was very interesting. The replay will be available everywhere else probably tomorrow, but it'll be up on our Facebook page, Human Design for Everyone, approximately 10 to 15 minutes after we are done with the presentation. Do you have, would you like to leave us with a closing remark, or other than Galentine's Day? I really like that one, but
Yeah. Well, I do. I love what you said about, you know, it is a heavy topic, and I had hesitation, as you know, about sharing this on Valentine's Day. But I think that you're right, and that we all need to really learn how to love ourselves. And so that's why I talked about the, you know, the 4 things in the incarnation cross, the love gates. So finding love for yourself and love for your body and connecting with the love of spirit. So today, if you are experiencing any difficulty in your relationships and or you're not in a relationship, then try some of those things to love yourself. So hopefully that helps you do that.
I think everyone should go out and buy themselves a rose or a box of chocolates.
Yeah, or chocolate covered strawberries or something.
Or chocolate covered. And Lynn, as a final one, says gate 49. You know, bring in that gate. Usually if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, it takes a revolution to end it.
That's so true.
Actually, the sun just transited out of the gate 49, if you saw Karen's. And today it's transiting into passion, the gate 30. So thank you, Lynn. Thank you so much, Korynn. This was very good.
Awesome. Thank you.